Hi Leo, welcome to Yellow Cardinal Tarot with me. My name is Carol, and this is going to be a general reading for you, and it's going to be a mid-month check-in for July 2025. And if you haven't seen my July 2025 reading that I've done for you, I'll link it at the end for you. So this month what we're going to do for the mid-month is we're going to look at what pattern is showing up in your life. And I'm asking specifically for a pattern because patterns are very important for us. And when we start to see patterns show up in our life, when things happen to us again, you know, if we're attracting the same type of people, we're finding ourselves in the same types of situations, it's kind of like a deja vu. I've seen this before. You really need to pay attention to it. Could be emotions that are coming up again. You know, we can spiral deeper into emotions. And so those are, you know, a clue of what the universe is trying to get us to look at. So we're going to look at that. First of all, I'm going to pick a card. I'm going to deal out a card to show you what pattern's showing up in your life for healing right now. And then I'm going to look at, the middle part's going to be what aspect of your shadow is driving this pattern. Because believe it or not, the unconscious is actually, our shadow is what is actually manifesting this pattern that's showing up in our life. And finally, I'm going to ask for some advice from the tarot as to how you can begin to heal this pattern. All right, so let's get going and ask for one card for the pattern that's showing up for Leo mid-month, July 2025. One card for that. And before I forget, I am using the Curious Travels deck for you, as well as clarifying with the Radiant Rider-Waite deck. And we have our first card, which is the World card. Card for you that's showing up. Closure. What aspect from your shadow is driving this pattern? What aspect from your shadow? You have the the Ace of Pentacles. I see number 1 on there and it always confused me. It's like, no, this is the Ace. Ace is 1. What advice does the tarot have for you to begin to heal this pattern? So your cards came out rather quickly for me, so they're speaking for me. The Knight of Wands. And then let's get some clarifiers for this World card, a couple cards for the World card, and then I'll get right into your reading when I get these clarifiers out. Tell me some more about the World card. Couple cards. One. And one more for this World card. Okay, we got our 2 cards. So you have the Page of Wands in reverse and the King of Wands in reverse sitting under your World card. I just want to make sure you can see these 2. Yeah. Okay. Ace of Pentacles. Tell me some more. A couple cards for this Ace of Pentacles right here. One more card. Ace of Pentacles. One more card. Okay, so you have the Nine of Pentacles, and sort of in a sideways position here we have the Lover's card. Interesting card to be in sideways position. Kind of makes sense. All right, Knight of Swords. Couple cards for that one. And this is going to be for what advice from the tarot I have for you. And one more card here. Ooh, it wants to come out. It was like, no, we're going to, this one. Normally the last card does not come out, but we're going to see what it is. 5 of Cups in reverse and the 10 of Swords in reverse wants to come out. I was like, no, this is the one. I was trying to sneak it back in. I was like, no, you're not putting this back in. So, okay, so what pattern's showing up in your life? We start off with the World card, and you heard me say closure. And you know, it's interesting that I'm doing a pattern this month, mid-month, and it's like something is coming up for closure, and I'm thinking all I can hear in my head kind of like is, okay, this is fine, this is enough. It's almost like the universe is giving me your advice really early here, like this is enough. We're bringing this to closure for you, whatever this pattern is. So let me see if I can get some more. We have the Page of Wands, and it's in reverse. So the pages in my deck are our inner children, and I've been on my own healing journey for 8 years now, intensively. And one thing I've learned is that I have more than one inner child. I know mainstream psychology likes to say we just have one, but we can have, many inner children, that because they hold our trauma, they hold our emotions, they hold information for us. And so you have this Page of Wands that's kind of like tugging at your pant leg, saying like, listen to me, Leo. Leo, I know what direction you're supposed to go into. Now you might be thinking, well, what is inner child knows what direction I want to go into? But when we were young, 4, 5, 6 years old, that's how old our pages are. We knew exactly what direction we were supposed to go in. We knew what we were supposed to be doing. I know you may not remember that right now. Oftentimes we get, derailed from stuff that happens to us in our childhood or adolescence. And so you have this inner child of yours holding the wand, because the wand is all about your purposeful direction, your creative direction, where you're meant to go. It could be something very small. It doesn't have to be big. It's something very small, like where you're putting yourself first, and it's like, okay, I'm going this direction here. So it could be something where there's a small step out there to take, right? But before that needs to happen, our inner children need healing when they're pulling on our pant leg. They're like, I have these big emotions. I was, not allowed to do what I wanted to do when I was younger for some reason. And so that can be big emotions that are of grief, shame. Sometimes we're shamed around what we want to do and what we thought we wanted to do. Just think of a little kid, 4, 5, 6 years old. I want to be so-and-so, whatever they want to be when they're younger, and you can't do that. You can't make any money doing that. Or what do you do? Yeah, that's silly. That's a dumb idea. That's where you're shamed when you're younger around your purposeful direction. And so you have an inner child that needs connecting. And I do that through my journaling. I talk to them. I ask them, what is it? What do you know? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? And oftentimes I'll get a message from them, and they know what the next step is. But you need to feel that grief and that shame, whatever these emotions are, that this Page of Wands is coming up for you, because there's some closure here that's needed finally and it's a general reading, to that situation of, and until you can go into that, take that next step that you want to do. But you have the King of Wands here. And the King in my deck is the masculine side of us. We all have a masculine side and we all have a feminine side. It has nothing to do with gender. But the King of Wands, the King in particular, is our ego self. And our ego self is carrying that wand as well. And it's saying like, creativity, authenticity, going in the direction you want to go, and so it'll come up to block us, and that's what will block us in our, it'll block these inner children too. It's kind of like it keeps them down, because the ego self is scared. It's a very scared part. It wants things to remain like as is, status quo, right? It doesn't want to rock the boat, because our ego self was a part that came out when we were very young, because it was concerned about our safety. And so it would have, prevented us from taking these risks, especially if we were not encouraged when we were younger. So here you are, I use the word taking a risk, maybe wanting to take a risk, and it's like, okay, this is coming to a closure. This is coming to, finally in July, middle of July, where and to the end of July, maybe a little bit further, where you're kind of going, this is happening for me. But you have to be aware why you're blocked. And oftentimes I have to write from this part as well. I do a lot of journaling, and I just write, don't you dare, you're not going to do that. You're not allowed to do that. And it'll sound a lot like what our parents would have told us when we were younger. So you got to work with your ego as well, that's trying to block you from going this way. So what aspect from your shadow was actually driving this pattern? So let's look a little bit at our unconscious and what actually happened when you were younger. See if I can get some answers here as a child or an adolescent, where you know, this little page here was the one that, you know, held on to our emotions and held on to the trauma. And I didn't say held on to our memories as well. It knows what happened. And so when we dig into our unconscious and our shadow, this is what we find out. This is what, you know, the grief and the shame is buried here. And so something's coming up here. So you have the Ace of Pentacles. And the Ace of Pentacles is an offer from the universe. It's a gift from the universe. It's, you know, something when you were younger, when we were 4, 5, 6 years old, because that's what we're speaking about when you're really young, you were in your body. You were very grounded. And this pentacle here talks about the earth element. It talks about being grounded. And so because it's in your shadow, I can see here that something happened to you when you were younger where it, you know, you were grounded at one point as a young child. You know, you see kids that, you know, very young that are very grounded in their body. They're not afraid to be themselves. You know, you had that when you weren't afraid to take risks. And then something happened to you where it's like, no, And so what happens when we're younger, when we're not allowed to take risks, when we're told, you know, we're not allowed to do certain things, and we can, our ego self will come out as it is right now with you, and it'll pull us out of our body when we're younger because we can't handle these big emotions when things happen to us. And so it'll pull us up and it'll keep us up in our heads because that's where it's safe, because there's no emotions there. And so right now when you are feeling there's something coming up and you're wanting closure to this, and this little page has some emotions that are connected to you not being allowed to do something when you were younger. And so you were pulled out of your body, and that's why it's sitting here in your unconscious, right? This whole idea of being grounded in your body. You have the Nine of Pentacles underneath. We're going to look at some clarifiers for this Ace of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles speaks about this individual that has spent a lot of time working with this falcon. And you know, this card's about time. This card's about commitment. This card is about knowing what's worth committing yourself to. But it's in your unconscious, along with this Ace of Pentacles, which is fascinating, because I think, you know, that whole thing about knowing your purpose when you were younger, being grounded in your body, knowing what direction you're meant to go in, knowing what, you know, you're meant to commit yourself to. Oh, that's buried with this Ace of Pentacles right now. And the Lover's card. The Lovers, I said it was kind of, you know, interesting that this showed up sideways. And it's interesting also that it showed up in your shadow. So let's look at the Lover's card first of all. This is a card that doesn't show up often, but it is such a card that has so much to it. It's not like a lot of people say, well, you have a lover coming here, and a lot of tarot readers will say that, but you know, it's not about that at all, this card. If you look at this card, you have two individuals that are very, very vulnerable. Very, what's the word I want to look, what I'm thinking of here? Very vulnerable. And if you look at the male, first of all, there's two sides to this card. There's a masculine side and there's a feminine side. And so look at the masculine figure here, which is your masculine side. It's looking straight ahead, right? Just straight ahead, which is, you know, consciously looking out, aware of what's ahead of them. But this feminine side of us, which we all have, like I said, that's, you know, it's been buried for decades, but it's starting to come out here, you know, and creativity and putting yourself first and authenticity. Well, those are all feminine aspects to ourselves. Well, look what she's looking. She's looking up to the divine. She's looking up for guidance. She's using her intuition. Intuition is a feminine quality that we all have. And so you have this card of the feminine and the masculine card. Now, this card really stands for me. If it's not sitting in my shadow, in your shadow, it'll be a decision to go inwards, to take your focus, which is masculine has, your conscious focus, and to take that and go inwards to your unconscious, right? And that means you're going to go into your body. And when this comes out in a reading, it's like it's a choice you have to make to go inwards, right? To be very in touch with who you are, and to be very in touch with your intuition and your guidance system. And so that's buried in your shadow. And so what I'm seeing is when you were younger, because something happened to you where you weren't allowed to be in your body anymore, and you weren't allowed to commit yourself to what you wanted to in the direction you're meant to go in. You also lost that feminine side of you that was in touch with your intuition and your inner guidance and knowing. And so I'm already seeing, that this is, without looking at this over here, but there's this real need for you to get back in your body, right? To get back in touch with your intuition and your inner guidance. And when we can get in touch with those inner children of ours and start to heal them, we're also going to get in touch with, eventually, more and more our inner guidance and our intuition, and we're going to know what direction to go into. And so what's the guidance? What advice does the tarot have for you right now? Well, you have the Knight of Swords that comes out. You have 2 sword cards here in your advice. The knights in my deck are an adolescent part of us, and we all have this part, and I call them my freedom fighters. These knights come up quite often in my readings because it's the part of you that wants to have freedom, right? Wants to have freedom from anybody oppressing you. So anybody like telling you what to do. So there's this real part of you that's pulling you in this direction that we're talking about here, wanting to bring closure here, but there's a part that's pulling at you, and maybe you feel it, to go into that direction. And in particular, it has this sword, and the sword by itself speaks about our truth, our authenticity, and who we are. And there's that feminine aspect of your authenticity, and it's going to bring you towards your purpose again, and it's pulling you, and that's what you're feeling, right? And 5 of Cups comes here. This night, because it's been a part of you that's been trying to pull you. Like when you were younger, like I said, you would have been taken out of your body, but this night, it's been trying all your life to pull you. Think of yourself as an adolescent and how you just wanted to be you, and you didn't want anybody telling you what to do. But in this night, because it's been fighting so hard, I can see here that there's been you've been going through some real these 3 of Cups. Can you see that? This is the 5 of Cups card in reverse, but it's a card that speaks about this individual that's very almost like in a dark night of the soul, where they have these 3 cups that they've been focusing on, these spilled cups, and they've been focusing on them for a long time, and they're not looking at these 2 cups over here that are still standing. They don't see this silver lining on the bridge that's sitting there for them, and they don't see the emotions that are flowing here. And I think it's time for you I think it got to a point where it's time for you to recognize, that I'm going to call it depression, could involve some loneliness, that you've been sitting in here has a lot to do with, believe it or not, what you felt when you were younger, because you weren't allowed to do what you wanted to do. And just imagine, as a child, when you were told no, and you're not allowed to do this, and this is what you were supposed to do, this is the direction you were meant to go in, and you were told no. Well, I think you've been feeling a lot of hopelessness, in and out. We can do that. We go in and out of hopelessness. And I think because of what people told you when you were younger. See these 10 of Swords, this is the end. It's interesting that you began with the World, which wants closure, and then you begin with the 10 of Swords, and then you end with the 10 of Swords. That is the ending of the cycle of swords. And swords talk about our mental energy, our mental thoughts, and what we think. And so all these things that you have been told when you were younger, especially when you wanted to do something, when you wanted to follow what you thought was your direction, and they told you all these things like, who do you think you are? You can't do that. You're too dumb. You're stupid. You're this. You're that. well, this is what it's done to you. And you continue to spin those right in your head. And so you have to recognize that this king will also, your ego self will also continue to spin in your head, right? When really there's some grounding that needs to happen here for you to get back into your body so you can get in touch with that intuition, so that you know, and get in touch with your inner child so that you know what your next step is going to be. And so, Leo, I'll leave you with your July 2025 reading that I did for you. I want you to have compassion for yourself for what you're working through the last part of July. This is a difficult journey, the healing journey, but it's the most important one. So take care, and I'll talk to you in August. Bye-bye.